Welcome to another episode of The Naked Patient. This is an exciting episode because Jed, back. Thanks for coming again.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Dude, this is going to, we talked about this when you first came on. This is going to be like a regularly recurring thing. We're going to bring on the trained professional.
I love that.
To make sure that we're in alignment.
No, I love that.
I feel like you've always kept me in alignment, so we're going to bring you on regularly to keep the podcast in alignment.
I appreciate that. I'll do my best.
What's changed since last time?
For me?
Yeah.
How long's it been?
It's been 6 months, yeah.
Or so. Business is growing, got a bigger office.
Love it.
Christmas happened. I got a chin augmentation.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I'm just answering your question, man. Yeah. Lots changed. Yeah.
See, I feel like the therapist now. Would you like to discuss this?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
About my chin augmentation.
Yeah. So I did your chin augmentation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's exciting to bring you back as a patient as well, because before that we had just you weren't really a patient.
Right.
I was yours.
Yeah. 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 A little Botox here and there.
I just want to hear your experience around it.
So, first of all, and I've thought a lot about this, and there's one, I sent you a text once after it was done, and I worded it so perfectly, and it just came out. But since then, I don't have the phone, so I don't have the text. Ultimately, the experience, it feels at this point like complete. And I don't know quite how to put it into words. But I've never really, how do I put this? It's always been a surprise to me that I did not have the chin that I thought I had. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put that. It always surprised me because I never saw it. I grew up in a trailer, where they didn't have a lot of mirrors or something. I thought I looked like Zach from Saved by the Bell for a long time. Very confident. You know what I mean? So, and it wasn't until I was 17 when someone said, "Hey, you don't have much of a chin." I think I was probably, I wasn't well behaved in my youth. So I was probably making fun of someone who didn't have a chin. And like, "Hey, you don't have much of a chin yourself, Jed." They called me Jades back then. So I'm like, oh, I just didn't know. So,
Isn't all that stuff's instilled into us though?
About what do you mean?
All insecurities.
Yeah.
Nobody's born with an insecurity.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I didn't even know it until that guy said that.
Yeah.
I still remember it to this day. His name was Days.
Oh, of course it
Days. What are you gonna do?
Your name's Days, bro. Thanks for letting me know.
It's a good time. It's a good time. So, but yeah, since then, it's never really affected me in a large way. It was just always kind of like in the peripheral on some level. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So a chin augmentation is actually the one plastic surgery procedure I would get done. People ask me that question all the time. What would you get done? Because I've not had any sort of plastic surgery myself, being a plastic surgeon. I give myself Botox. I've had filler, things like that. But people always ask me, what would you get done? I would also a chin augmentation.
Yeah,
because I've got a weak jaw. I
don't like that term.
It's a terrible term.
It's always bothered me. I like a weak jaw. Like I felt I always feel offended on some level. Like, it's not a weak jaw. I'm a strong man. What do you mean? What do you call me a weak jaw? Yeah. So that's how they say it, and that's how it's referred to. And honestly, and you probably would know the stats more than I would on this. I think it's more. It has more of an effect on males having a small jaw than it would females. What do you think about that?
Oh, for sure. It does 100%.
Why do you think?
Oh, why does it have more of an effect on males?
You probably have.
Because of that wording, because of the shame that we've attached to it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're not supposed to be a weak man.
Yeah, I hate that word, weak. All these words.
Yeah.
The word I don't like, and this is off topic, elites. You know how they say that with the really mega rich people, they call them the elites?
Uh-huh.
Why would you say that? Like, because there's, I don't know, elites.
Yeah.
Because it almost puts them above people who aren't elites. Mm-hmm. So that's bothered me too.
It puts them on a pedestal.
What's that?
It just puts them on a pedestal.
Right. Like, That's almost like saying, it's like if you're trying to, be condescending to someone, calling them extremely handsome. You know what I mean? I bet they get a kick out of that. But anyway.
Probably do.
Yeah. Back to the topic.
We don't have to dive way too much into your surgery, but I do want to hear, because the whole premise of this podcast was really when it's morphed now, and we'll talk a little bit about that and changed, but it was, did plastic surgery change your life, or have, like, what kind of positive impact did it have on you? Like, do you feel like this chin augmentation changed you?
No. And
I'm so glad you said that.
I have clients come in with body dysmorphia talking about plastic surgery, and now I can connect with them on a whole nother level.
For sure.
So did it change me? No. And honestly, this wasn't even on my radar until maybe a year or two ago. And it only came on my radar then when my goals for life changed. You know what I mean? My aspirations got more long-term and more large. I don't know.
Yeah.
Expanded. I want to like speak around the world at some point. That was never something that had crossed my mind, when I was up till 45 or so. So yeah, when that hit, that idea, then I'm like, okay, what can I change that would make myself more perceptibly agreeable by the masses? Because when you know me, you don't notice the flaws, so to speak. But if you don't know me, and that's where my head went, I'm like, what can I do to create a more approachable and, someone who would perceive me in a better light? Just surface value. As shallow as that sounds, that's where my thoughts were. I don't
think it's shallow at all. I think it's honest, and it's recognizing the flaws in society.
Yeah, and I want to be,
like, that's a real thing. Like, people absolutely immediately make a snap judgment about somebody based on their looks. I think if you looked at Chris Stapleton and had never heard him sing.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, it's Chris Stapleton's a phenomenal country singer with a beautiful voice. But he looks like a homeless man. You would immediately make a judgment about him and how he sounds and who he is. And he has this beautiful voice.
Was he on The Voice?
I don't think he was. Was Chris Stapleton on The Voice? Haley's in the back listening. I don't think so, but he is a phenomenal singer, and people make a snap judgment.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. And it's all, and you could do the studies on this, but there's like a very, like, how do I say this? Acceptable and inviting appearance that someone has. Same with voice, by the way. And my voice is probably a little higher than the acceptable. I'm definitely, if I had that, I've known
my radio voice.
Right? Yeah, I've known therapists have that deep, soothing voice. But I can't do that. So here we are.
The studies on the way people look have been done. Like the most attractive.
That's the word.
Features are average.
Yeah,
it's average.
I think I'm nailing it.
There you are.
Right. I don't want to be too attractive, because then it's like.
There's a whole Office episode on this where they put up Hilary Swank's picture, and they have a whole discussion of, is she attractive? Is she not attractive?
Yeah.
Because Hilary Swank actually represents a very distinct, like, averaging of features. A lot of these studies will split the face into vertical fifths and horizontal thirds, and they're supposed to be even. So on your, like, horizontal thirds, like, your forehead height should be the same height as your mid face and the same height as your lower face. And when they're not, you look a little asymmetric. And so that creates a idea of less attractability.
I think that goes back to, like, wiring too. Like, not a learned thing, but a nature versus nurture. This would be the nature. I think this is just people are born with this on some level. Isn't that wild? That's what I think anyway.
No, I completely agree. What's funny is there's also this whole other side of that bell curve where more average, you're more attractive. But then the whole other side of it is if you have a distinctive feature, that can suddenly make you extremely attractive because of the feature. Like the gap in Madonna's teeth or Cindy Crawford's beauty mark. Like those things are very distinct features that are way outside of the average.
Yeah.
But that's what makes them more attractive.
Yeah, distinguishable.
Yes.
Or they're more noticed on some level. Yes.
Wild.
Fascinating stuff.
So it didn't change you fundamentally.
No, and I didn't need it either.
Has it given you increased confidence?
I don't think so in regards to therapy or in regards to therapy. I think it's given me increased confidence when it comes to doing videos and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, because I do know, like before that, when I would see myself in a picture before, by the way, I think I could have trained myself out of this again. When my goals, what I want to do in the future changed, then this became more of a value piece, but I probably could have trained myself to be okay, even more so with like my side profile, if I put the time into it. But now I think much less about it. I mean, and much less, which I think is, now I wonder how much of my low level energy was I losing just by having that low level thought, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To avoid side profiles and whatever, that kind of thing. Okay, I've got to tell you, sorry, I know I cut you off.
Do it.
Not so. I think there was this. I was doing this. I'm not trying to like video this, but I was doing this video with Natalie, and we were in bed, and I had tricked her to watch part of the beginning of Warhammer, and she hates this stuff, hates it. Okay. But as I was tricking her, I was recording her. You could probably go back somewhere and find this, but I was recording her, and I got just the perfect setup, perfect response. And then afterwards, I said something, but when I looked, I'm like, oh, see, I'm in my bed, I'm laying down. You know what I mean? It's just all sorts of not pleasant, not appealing. So I totally cut that out, right? I wouldn't do that at this point. So it has given me a confidence boost in that regard where...
Thank God. I was about to quit plastic surgery.
No, it has. No, definitely. But,
hey, did the thing I did for you change your life? Nope. Did it give you more confidence? No, not really.
Think about that.
Oh, good. Well, awesome.
No, honestly, I'll stand by it. What I have noticed though is
I want you to that's very key. Like, I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, I love it. It changed my life completely. That's the whole point of this podcast is honest reactions.
Should change your life completely. No, listen, that's me though. Like plastic surgery, but I'm a therapist, right? So of course I'm going to have this angle of if it's a need, that's a problem.
Yeah.
If it's a want, that's great. That's rock and roll. But if it's a need,
we knocked this out of park. The first podcast we did. Let's say it again. Plastic surgery inherently doesn't change you.
Yeah.
You change you.
Yeah. Another thing I've noticed, I think, and again, who knows, right? We have our own bias. I feel like I'm being treated differently though. And I don't know if that's it. I don't know. How do I, even study that?
Absolutely. So here's a wild study. Okay. Breast augmentation. Okay. They've done studies on waitresses who've gotten breast augmentations. Their tips go up 15% with a breast augmentation. This is not just like Hooters that's been studied. This is like regular restaurants wearing regular non-revealing clothing. Women with breast augmentations get 15% on average more tips, which is stupid. Like, that's just silly.
Yeah.
But it's a real statistic.
Yeah, I believe it. And I've had like clients come in where, and that's not always the female either, someone will, for whatever reason, like maybe a lot of body weight was lost, and all of a sudden they're getting more attention and getting more positive attention from the opposite sex or whatever. So it kind of creates a bit of some turbulence in the relationship that has to be addressed and worked through, so
there's a significant, I don't know if it's a risk or just an increase, but there's a lot of divorces happen shortly after a mommy makeover procedure.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. And you create this disconnect there.
Yeah.
What's the therapy word I'm looking for?
Discontinuity. Well, I don't...
dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, is that a thing? That's not it.
No, the cognitive dissonance is where your behaviors are out of alignment with your values.
That's right. This
would be almost like they were used to getting a certain amount of attention, and maybe the husband was giving that attention, that was good, but then they got this mommy makeover, and then they were getting a whole bunch of attention that they weren't used to.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, hey, I never realized that I valued that as much as I am valuing it, where it would create a bit of I don't know what the therapy word would be, but some kind of effect on the relationship.
Yeah.
And like looks match on some level too. So if
they were way off,
how uncomfortable would it be if I keep on I'm sorry, Nick, I don't mean to keep cutting off. I get excited though.
No.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's why I love you.
So not cool.
Do it.
But how weird would that be if if you're a 6 and you married a 6, all of a sudden she came 9? Woo! I bet the guy would get like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little insecure around
absolutely.
that. He couldn't say that, obviously, but.
No, I think that absolutely happens. Okay, so one thing I was excited to talk to you about on this, because I would love your take on this, is our therapy relationship sort of ended last year sometime.
Yeah, no, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, and it was we got to a point where I think one day you're like, Nick, I feel like I'm not giving you a non-biased opinion anymore because I feel like your friend and I like you.
Yeah.
And I can't, and we got to just be friends. And I remember telling someone, this is friggin' ridiculous. I became too good of friends with my therapist. I don't have one anymore. But this podcast has become like therapy for me. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, you grew out of therapy, man.
Which is in large part thanks to you. Like, you are an excellent therapist, and
I appreciate that.
Not having patience forever.
Yeah.
Shows that.
But every time
it's a terrible business model.
It is, right. But I didn't do any of the work. Thank you for the compliment, but I will always, you did that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what's wild to me though is there is not an episode that goes by where I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm having a crazy breakthrough right now. Yeah, it's true. Like the very first episode I recorded with Haley, she was the very first one I recorded. We were talking about plastic surgery, and I shared the story with about my mom, and after she had plastic surgery done, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where my need to have plastic surgery be not shameful came from. It came from this singular moment in my life. And I realized it talking to Haley on a podcast.
Yeah. Awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Super cool. It's almost like you get a different angle being the interviewer in the podcast. So it helps you probably to see it a little better when someone else is, talking about it. So yeah, that's awesome. It is a lot like therapy for you, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool to see this angle, because I guess that's what you kind of get your patients to do is talk about these things from that other perspective.
And you must be really good at getting that connection piece too. You know what I mean? That's even when I was coming here, I was like, I really want to have a honest conversation a genuine, honest conversation, because I think that's where a lot of therapy takes place. Just someone finally, and you're the people you have on here, that must be what's happening, is they're finally able to like, I'm going to be honest with you and genuine and give you, and be vulnerable, really, which is not allowed.
You want to know my secret?
Yeah, desperately.
I'll tell you a second. My secret is exactly what you just said. It's vulnerability. I wear my life on my sleeve. And I try to create a very safe space here for sharing. And the only way that I can do that is if I myself am willing to be vulnerable. And so, God, I mean, there's 80% of these damn things I'm crying on.
Oh, you're working through stuff then on it.
Yeah, I'm working through stuff, and it just creates the ability to have that honest conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know if I'm going to cry. I'm very, and honestly,
I didn't have to cry to be vulnerable and honest.
I sometimes wish I could a little easier, but in therapy, like I'm the therapist is like, I'm not going to cry with my client, because in here it'd be more appropriate. You know, in therapy, when people see someone crying, you have that gut reaction to go and like soothe them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that. I want to be the one that they can talk to, whatever. And I was thinking about that too on the way over here. I'm like, I wonder how much I'm unable to be vulnerable because I have such a high value of, I can't be vulnerable in therapy. I don't even talk about myself in therapy.
Not much.
By the way, no, it's very rare. Am I going to talk about myself? It's about this other person.
How do you train that? Like I have such a hard time not like coming to that same level. Like, and I see patients in really, really vulnerable emotional situations, and it's really hard for me not to match that emotion and vulnerability. Like, I will cry with my patients. I will cheer and yell and shout and be angry with my patients. But sometimes probably to not an inappropriate level, but maybe, I don't know, maybe there's times when I need to have more of a wall up. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm just thinking out loud here.
That's what I wanted though. Like that's the genuine conversation right there. We're having like insights, and it's almost like we're in discovery mode together. That's like the magic of therapy. It feels spiritual. So it must feel spiritual in here with your people, because that's what you're feeling, is that just that connection.
It absolutely is. I'll tell you one area where I struggle, where I have to like rein myself in is I'm a little bit of an open book, but I'm also like have not a great filter sometimes. And so I'll say something that I think is pretty hilarious, but then I'll get some feedback from patients who are like, you can't say that. Like I had some feedback from a patient, for example. This patient comes in, she's trying to decide on a second round of surgery, and she's trying to decide if she wants to do it before or after the holidays. And I say, well, if you could go ahead and do it before the holidays, I'd really like to give my kids a nice Christmas.
See, that's just funny. That's just a good joke.
That's what I thought. I get feedback from another patient who's like, dude, I heard that you said this to this person and it really offended them, because what you have to understand is you sometimes come across as an elitist to take this back, and they feel lesser than. And so when you make a joke like that, they feel like you're putting yourself on this pedestal, and you got to be careful with that. And I actually was like, I really appreciate that feedback, because that is 0% the intention that I had.
Yeah.
But I do have to watch myself sometimes.
Yeah, it's just our culture. But, my stance on that is you can't make someone feel And we want a certain type of clientele. You know, some people, yeah. Your plastic surgery, I imagine, is a little different. You know what I mean? Like, it's a service where you see what is done afterwards, right? Like,
Yeah.
where therapy is, you can't see any of that. If I had a client that got offended easily, you know, I don't like just come out the gate, you know, bam, 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 you know, let's be offensive. But I will say shocking things on purpose in a therapeutic manner. If that's not something they connect with, they'll find another therapist. I'm okay with that. As that's, you know,
No, I do have to have that mindset with some patients, because listen, no plastic surgeon is going to make every one of their patients thrilled.
yeah. I like that you're open to it though, because we do need that feedback
For sure.
You know, in order to align in the social norms, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to maintain at least most of my patients are really happy.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to get that feedback, but I also am good with knowing there's going to be some patients that just, it's plastic surgery. It's not it's a science, but it's not exact science. It's a lot of it is artistic, and some of it, things heal ways we don't want them to, or patients don't follow instructions, or just didn't quite look the way you wanted it to come out. And
yeah, I like the idea where when you take feedback like that, it's almost like a criticism. You know, like, oh, that's not how it was intended. I wasn't meaning that. And how I'm trying to picture it for you is, you do want to, you know, keep as much of your clientele happy as you can. So you do, on some level, need to see if your approach is off on some level. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I had a podcast. I'll never forget it. It was and I don't like the idea of regret. I don't like regret. Oh, you know what I mean? I did this podcast, my first podcast ever. It was with Todd Sylvester, and I swore like a sailor on that thing. When we worked together, and it was addiction, right? Like
Your favorite.
right? Yeah, no, yeah. But man, I swore like a sailor, but so now I know not to do that, because that's not, you know, I'm not proud per se of that.
Was that feedback that you got though,
No,
or was that just you listened to
just,
it and said that's not me?
Well, it's just it was probably like, it feels like an adolescent me. I don't know, maybe not that, but it's not who I want to be portrayed. I want to have stuff that my kids can listen to.
That's
and,
fair.
So, you know, I want to be able to connect with all age groups.
Yeah.
So not one podcast. Oh, I've been tempted. I'm like, maybe I should just tell them take it off. But that's also, this is part of my stumbles, and I'm not ashamed of it. It's just something to learn from.
Yeah, I will. I mean, this is an adult podcast, and we, people swear on here. I swear on here. But yeah, to some extent, I would love for my kids to be able to listen and say, "That's my dad." And be proud.
Yeah, I can't say that on that one.
That's fair.
Yeah. Oh well. Living and learning.
Living and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park. I don't know if their kids can ever watch and say, "Man, my dad's awesome."
Yeah. They probably could.
Of course they could. It's hilarious. And they tackle every topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, social norms.
Yeah. What is change? Like, so how are you building these great, you've talked about these big aspirations.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Like, what are you doing to?
Well, I reached out. I was reaching out to Ellen, but then turns out she wasn't a very nice person, apparently.
She's a horrible person.
I stopped reaching out to her. I've reached out to Russell Brand a couple times.
Okay.
And Joe Rogan. Just say, hey, let's talk. But so far, nothing. So at this point, I'm just building up my business, you know, I ultimately want to get my business going, in network with insurance companies, get people working at meaning to live, and then managing it while I go and, tour the world with my wife.
You know what comes up on almost every podcast is what you taught me about alignment and being in alignment. And that's why I was thinking cognitive dissonance, because it comes up all the time. And I think you should write a book on that.
I think I should too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking about writing a book.
Yeah.
Another book.
That idea of life is and therapy is so beautiful to me, because it helps me love and understand me more, but it also helps me love and understand humanity more, because I now, thanks to you, see people as everybody's good at their core.
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
Yeah. What a beautiful, and including me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a beautiful idea. And it's just love.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And yeah, it almost frees you up on some level, and not just with the taking off judgment from other people, because they're just reacting to whatever programming and environment and even genetics, but it also frees yourself up, because when you are in alignment, not much can affect you.
Yeah.
Like, you could be judged harshly. You could be accused of whatever this, when you're in alignment, It's nice having nothing to hide with that whole, no secrets.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing.
And it's cool. I see it talked about in a lot of different ways, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. I was listening to a podcast my friend Jimmy did on the way down here, and he talks about your soul calling you to integrity.
Yeah.
And immediately I was like, oh, that's just Jed talking about being in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, being a person of integrity just means you are living in alignment with your values and your integrity.
Yeah. Oh, well, and here's a wild thing. What if someone's values aren't your values? So that's what's kind of tricky.
That's okay.
Yeah. Who knows what their values are? Yeah. And yeah. Did you see that movie? What's it called? Puss in Boots 2?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
You've got to watch that show. It's so good.
I think my son loved it.
Oh, it's such a good show. It's a therapy show, by the way. Like,
okay.
Super cool. I'm going to just ruin the whole thing. There's this Jiminy Cricket. I don't know. Was that the Conscious, right? He's in this show.
Okay.
With a big villain, right? But the big villain, his values, he's not a good person, right? So when he does bad behaviors, he's not out of alignment. You know what I mean? I got to say behaviorally, right? If you want to be technically correct. But so Jiminy Cricket's like, yeah, I can't believe you're not a good person. And the other guy's like, you're just now figuring this out? Like, he has no moral compass. Well, that's talking about like psychopaths and, you know, antisocial who don't have the Jiminy Cricket, so to speak.
So they're not technically out of alignment.
They're not technically out of alignment. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Which is why they don't feel bad. That's just... Yeah.
No, this is another thing that I've talked about on this show, that I had a realization when I was a 19-year-old or 20-year-old missionary, is I had grown up having a difficult time with my dad, and we didn't have a great relationship growing up, and I had all this anger towards him. And when I went out and served a mission, he was the only person who wrote me every week. Even Mom missed some. And one day I'm sitting there studying, and I think, God only asks us one thing, and it's do our best. Give it your all. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, you're solid. And most religions are on that premise of just do the best you fucking can, and then we'll see. Mm-hmm. And it was a light bulb that hit me that day, where it's like, the only person who knows if I'm doing my best is me and God, or whoever you believe in. And so thought, I have no idea if my dad, this person who I'm having all this animosity towards, is doing his best or not. Because if he is doing his best, guess what? He's not out of alignment. Yeah. And if I'm judging him for it, I am.
Yes.
And so I started, this is how I try to treat people, is to bring myself back into alignment from judging them, I just assume they're doing the best they can.
Well,
and that has opened up the ability to love people on a level that I didn't ever think was possible. Like, I love my dad, and because I just assume he's doing the best he can. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't grant him carte blanche for any,
behaviors have consequences.
Yeah. And so, but I can also say, you know what? He's probably just doing the friggin' best he can. Mm-hmm. I'm just doing the best I can.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's the exact thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's it. And that's next level stuff. In therapy, when a client gets there, the homework I'll give him is, well, I don't do this for homework, but I'll say, it sounds like you need to apologize to your dad. You know what I mean? Because you were out of alignment. You were harboring ill feelings and that kind of thing. Yeah. And by the way, if you're in a communication with, with that type of communication, if you were to say, hey, Dad, rather than you did this, if it was, I need to apologize, and make it about you, where you're trying to get back into alignment and just speaking what you need to say, not needing them to do anything really. Ooh, that communication will go pretty far. Farther than you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that.
I got some homework.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I need to do that. I will do that.
Okay.
I will do that.
Yeah. I think everybody should do that.
Everybody should do that.
Let's make it a
now I'm just putting together this list of people that I've been out of line with because I didn't assume they were just doing the best they could.
But you were doing the best you could until this very moment. Yeah. So it's not like something you have to.
No, for sure. Like I'm not gonna shame myself over it or anything like that. But those would be conversations that I think would go a long way for both of us.
Yeah. What if that was how people communicated? How cool would that be? They took all responsibility, all accountability, and rather than trying to change the way you behave or the way you need to apologize for what you did in the past, it was, hey, this is about me. I don't need you to do anything or say anything for me to feel heard or anything. I'm just going to say what I need to say about myself. Yeah. It's always about us.
Yeah. I think if countries did that,
yeah,
the world would be a much better place.
Yeah. I think we have a lot of antisocial people running things. Yeah. And by the way, doctors should be a little antisocial. You know what I mean? I don't want my doctor to have too much empathy. I want him to be guarded. Like, you did not want to feel the pain that I was feeling after that surgery. I'm like, where are my pain meds in my house? All right. Where's the wheelchair?
I am grateful though for the things that have given me the ability to have some empathy for my patients. Like I've been in a trauma bay and have sat on a backboard for hours and and I can have some of that empathy. And I've passed a kidney stone before. So when I have friends call me up who are like, hey man, I've got a kidney stone. Is there any? Yes, absolutely. I can help. That is what I know what you're going through. I can absolutely help. And then same with surgery. Like I've not had a chin augmentation. I would like to, but I at least have some experiences to draw on for some empathy.
Yeah, not a bad thing. I've sat on those backboard things, and I feel like that hurt worse than like when I broke my back.
Yeah.
They had me on one of those. That hurt. The ambulance ride, I should have just taken my own car, because the ambulance ride to the other hospital was
miserable,
horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I was on that damn thing for 3 hours, and I had an unstable L4, L5 fracture. They didn't know if I was going to be paralyzed or not, and I was not happy.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. I freaked out in the MRI machine. They had to come give me like Ativan and put me down so I could just calm down and get an MRI.
Yeah. A lot of stress, sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy that you're chasing these things.
Yeah. Me too. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. And you need something to chase.
You do.
I have people come like, this was just not too long ago. A client, I feel like, Jed, that I'm never happy. You know what I mean? And then we talked about the hedonic treadmill, that kind of thing. And rather than say, be happy with what you've got, I'm kind of switching to good. Chase it. Because there's studies on this, that you're happier chasing something than you are when you get to it.
Yeah.
So the idea is, once you get somewhere, find somewhere else to go for. Goals, meaning and purpose, all those things. And retired people that come through, that's what trips them up.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to chase.
Yeah. One of the biggest moments for me in my life was realizing that I needed to chase something else. Like, I spent 14 years grinding away at this goal to become a plastic surgeon, and I got it. And then I spent the first 4 years of practice kind of wondering what's next.
Bummed out.
Yeah.
Like, that's it?
What do I do next?
Plateaued?
I had this really cool moment with a friend of mine who I had asked that question, didn't get an answer. And then a year later, she was like, hey, I've been thinking about that question. Did you ever figure it out? And I realized, oh my gosh, yeah, like me, I'm the next mountain. And I have spent the last year plus just really, really working hard on me.
Yeah.
And I've been more happy than I've ever been doing it.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Here's something cool though that I am working on. Okay. That I'm excited for. Just to prove the point that you got to do something that you're working for.
Let's hear it.
I grew up watching Home Improvement with Tim the Toolman Taylor. And for whatever reason, that instilled in me this like desire to always build a car.
Ooh.
You know, he's like always tinkering in his garage, he's building the car, his son gets involved with it. And I always wanted to do that. And so a few weeks ago, I purchased a kit car.
Sweet.
It gets delivered at the end of July.
I love it.
I know nothing about cars, Jed. Zero. I have no idea where the carburetor is, what a carburetor is.
You and me.
I don't know what the V's mean. I think having a lot of V's is good. So I want
a lot of what?
V's, it's like a V6, V8.
Oh.
I don't know what that means.
I would say volts.
More of them's better, apparently.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be fun.
No, that's going to be awesome. It's going to put me so far out of my comfort zone, my zone of knowledge, that I feel like a kid.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for this thing to come, and I'm excited.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next challenge.
It is. That's why I used to do really hard jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah. I thought of that. Yeah. You like a good puzzle.
I do.
Valve. I'm pretty sure that's what that V stands for.
I think so. Well,
valve,
yeah, I think it's
valves.
it's the way they're like arranged too.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah, you tell me when you know, because I don't. I'm not a mechanic.
So part of this thing is you go to Flint, Michigan for 3 days, and they put you with other students who want to build this kit car, and you and the students over 3 days do the whole build, and then you're equipped to go home when yours actually gets delivered and know what you're doing.
Have you done this yet?
No.
Oh, so you still have to take the trip to Michigan.
Yeah. So we just found out yesterday or day before, my kit will get delivered at the end of July, and
Mm-hmm.
I've got to pick a 3-day weekend. They do it twice a month. I got to pick a 3-day weekend.
What kind of car?
It's a Shelby Cobra replica.
Ooh.
So it's like a little 2-seater roadster that looks awesome.
Is that the one they did the movie on?
Uh-huh.
Matt Damon, I think.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah. Ooh, that's gonna be fun.
I know. I'm excited. So you want to come tinker in the garage, talk some therapy.
Yeah, I'll just tinker. That'd be fun. I want to build maybe I shouldn't say this over the air, but I want to build a bunker in my house, like an extra room. I just want to dig it out of my basement.
That'd be cool.
With a shovel. I'm not kidding.
Is this learn how to have your food storage? And
I just think it'd be fun to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's
not like you're worried the EMP is going to hit and we're all.
Nope, none of that. And frankly, I don't think that would do much good anyway. I just think it'd be fun to build a little room under and like that no one knows about.
Okay,
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Just people get their rocks off in all these different ways.
I mean, there is that guy that built the soundproof room for nefarious reasons and then went to jail.
I think when we were looking for apartments 10 years ago here, I think I might have visited one of those houses. We went to like the garage areas all padded up and there was chains hanging down.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like,
not our house.
This isn't feeling like the right place.
Not our house, honey. Not for us. What I want to hear before we wrap up.
Time goes too quick.
It does go way too fast.
It's been an hour already.
Mm-hmm. Another killer therapy episode.
Oh,
what is one thing looking back on the episode we did? And you've cut some really cool. If you don't follow Jed, like follow Jed on Instagram, on TikTok. He's actually used our video and cut it into a lot of really cool little segments. Is there anything after watching that episode and creating videos? Is there anything that you're like, oh man, I wish we would have touched on this, or I wish like this is what I would say if I went back on?
I can't even. Not after watching that. There's plenty I would like to talk about, just because. But yeah. No, I think that I love going through that and cherry picking on some level, the cool topics that we, and I can criticize. Like I was not as flowy vernacularly as I could have been. But I mean, the last one, I think I was all over the place. Even when I was editing it, putting in the subtitles, there was like half sentences all over the place. So yeah, no, I think we covered some good ground.
We did.
Yeah, covered some good ground.
Is therapy changing at all? Like, this is all pretty.
Yeah, I think it is.
That's how. It's more talked about. It's more popular. It's more accepted.
For sure. So the stigma's going away. I think that therapy is changing in a couple ways. The first one is that it's getting to be less of a, yeah, you should feel bad. You know what I mean? To more of an empowering. I don't know. It feels like last decade was real victim-y on some level, where therapists weren't allowed to be honest. By the way, isn't that crazy? Couldn't be honest because there was the need, especially if you worked as an employee, there was a need to acquiesce to certain people's emotions. So you couldn't be honest. Where I think now in our culture, I hope I said that right. Now in our culture, I think it's leaning more towards more of an accountability, and you can handle this.
Yeah,
it's more. It feels more like people are able to handle hard things. I guess that's it. Yeah. Less fragile. I think we're getting to let's talk about what really happened and let's talk about the emotions. The other thing that the therapy is going, I think anyway, is oddly like psychedelics, like psilocybins.
I was going to ask you, as plant medicine, I foresee that as a huge new wave in therapy.
Yeah. No, and I'm on board as long as it's legal. It's not yet, by the way. And I've heard about therapists like talking like. Listen, I
won't throw anybody under the bus, but I know a lot of people who have had their therapist say, "Listen, I can't prescribe this for you. I can't really tell you to do this, but I'm going to suggest strongly that this might be a really good thing for you.
Yeah. I think it's psilocybins are good for, I think it's depression so far.
Changed my life.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
I have talked about my own experience with plant medicine on the podcast. And I have had nothing but positive experiences from it. And I can truly say it's changed my life.
Yeah.
But it's cool though, because it's only augmented some of the awareness that you and I talked about.
I was going to say, like, you do have to be careful on that stuff because it can open doors that you might not be ready for. You know what I mean?
For sure.
No one wants a bad trip. You know what I mean? They all think they're going to get this awesome.
Oh, for sure. You have to do it with, plant medicine has to be done with a facilitator, with somebody who's trained, knows what they're doing, respects the medicine as well. Because otherwise you're just getting high.
You want to, yeah. And that's a problem. You know what? A weird effect this is having, this negative that people aren't seeing. Have you ever, what's that Dr. Seuss book where they go through the machine? What's that one where the Starbelly Sneetches?
Yeah, the Sneetches.
Yeah. So what's happening now, because this is getting so popular and people are doing it in masses under the radar, by the way, the people who aren't electing to do this, especially with addiction, you know, where it's hey, I'm not going to use anything outside of my own chemicals my body produces, you know, and not just produces, but creates without any outside influence. It's creating a bit of a separation. And the people who aren't or choosing not to do it, they're feeling alienated because the people in that population that have done it, that's all they talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people who have an experience, there's a bit of and I have multiple clients, by the way, coming through talking about this almost like a peer pressure.
Yeah.
Where I can't connect with the people I used to be able to connect with because all they talk about is this has helped them. Experience. And so just a different...
that's interesting.
Yeah, something that people aren't addressing or probably have no awareness around it.
Yeah. It's a hard thing because we, as a society, collectively made some of these medicines...
Excuse me.
Schedule 2 horrible medicated. We put them on the same pedestal as, you know, cocaine and crack and
back in the 80s.
Yeah. And it just, they're not. And we're sort of realizing that, but it's a long, long road.
Yeah. And well, listen, man, like if you have any like close diagnosis to schizophrenia or bipolar,
it can be real bad.
That stuff will mess you up. So I can see why back in the day they had to put the hard stop on it.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I'm sure there was a lot of stuff going on that we don't know about it.
Oh, the history of LSD is so fascinating to me because the government was going to use it to control the population for a while.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all the subjects were just happy and figuring out life.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think is cool about that stuff. But I think you can get there with probably more work and effort and consciousness.
Well, of course you can.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them these medicines are only opening up chemicals that already exist there. Most of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has to do more than that, though, Nick. It needs to open up the chemical piece, but also translate into changing the belief systems. One of my pet peeves is when people have this experience and I say, okay, what's changed? What's changed? And I'm not trying to like chop it down. I want to know what you consciously are aware of, belief-wise, that's changed.
1,000%. So these plant medicine experiences that people are having, those are not the actual, like taking the medicine. That's not the journey. That's not the power of it. It's what happens afterwards. It's the neuroplasticity that these things provide so that you can have a real lasting change. That's the benefit.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing with the neuroplasticity though? Like I want to, that's where it'd be good to have somebody like, hey, what trauma, what issue were you having that's figure out the belief system. And I think even more so with those, the psychedelics is it gets your mindset where you are able to focus mindfully and be appreciative of this moment. You know what I mean? Almost like it brings you back to that kid state where, oh man, I could be a kid. I could just sit here and be just fascinated and excited about this whole experience. Yeah. I think that's on some level what it helps your brain to remember how to do. That's just me pontificating, so to speak.
I like it.
Yeah.
I always love having you on, man.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
I'm sorry, this will be Jed's the actual therapist of my practice and the naked patient.
Good.
And we'll keep having you on.
Oh, I sure hope so. And also thank you for the invite. That was fun. And I feel like the goal I had was accomplished.
Good. We had an honest, open, genuine conversation.
Yeah. Good connection.
Thanks, Jed.
Yeah. Good connection. Thank you.